Hi everyone, welcome to History on Trial. This is Dr. Tracey McCarthy. We're going to be following up our discussion about the Indian surnames. This time though, we're going to make it a little bit closer to home. So we're going to be actually looking at the surnames of actual people. We're going to look at some historical records, and we're going to look at how people were classified racially according to different Indian tribes, nations, clans. And what you're going to see is there is a process whereby individuals who are located in certain spaces, there was a tendency to label them according to being in those spaces. So those who were a part of removal dynamics, those individuals tended to have one identity in terms of racial identity, and those who were out west also. And then you had the individuals who were in the east, the southeast in particular, those who remained behind. Those individuals appear to be reclassified because they have the surname of the tribe, but then they get a reclassification in terms of race, and they become a color versus an actual ethnic group. So let me show you what this looks like specifically. First, we're going to look at some miscellaneous nations and see how these individuals have been classified racially, even though they actually hold the name of the tribe as the surname. And first up, we have Roosevelt Comanche, and you can see Roosevelt Comanche was born in 1930. Person was born in Louisiana, and you can also see that the person is identified racially as black and then as a male. One of the things that you'll see as we go along is there is a tendency for individuals, even though they possess the tribal surname, there is a tendency for those who were left behind after the removal. In the Southeast, those individuals were often reclassified, so they were no longer classified as Indian in many of these records, and they were reclassified as either white, black, or Negro. And so you will see that dynamic quite a bit if you are doing this research yourself. So you'll see this prevalence in Louisiana, Mississippi, the Carolinas. Let's look at another individual who was left behind. You see an individual, Paul S. Seminole, and you see this person identified, this is the 1925 New York State Census, as black. These military registration cards are very helpful because they give you descriptors. So here we have a Paul William Seminole, and this particular Seminole individual is reclassified again over on the right-hand side. You see that the person is classified as Negro. They are described as having brown eyes, black hair, and light brown skin. Here you have a federal census, and this individual is Modoc, and it's Ernest Modoc, and it's the Modoc Indians. And you see this individual is classified on the other side, on the right-hand side there, racially as Negro. Now let's look at this Homa designation. Remember, we looked at the surname Homa. We looked at the dispersion of the surname Homa, which is an Indian tribal group out of Louisiana. You see this individual with the tribal surname of Homa in Louisiana. This person is born in Louisiana also. And you see this person is classified racially as black. Here you have another individual for the 1910 U.S. Census coming out of Louisiana. Again, you have this entire family. Even though they maintain the Homa tribal name, they have been classified as black. Now we're going to look and see what happens when an individual maintains the surname Sioux as their family name, and so their tribal name, their racial name. We're going to see what happens when an individual maintains that name. You will often see that there is also the maintenance of the Indian identity. But again, you have dynamics where individuals who are in different parts of the country are getting different classifications. Even though they may all be Indians, they are getting different classifications based upon being in different locations and perhaps having different ancestry also. This particular marriage license goes into great detail. So you actually see the Indian names of the individuals. So you see John Firewolf. You see something very interesting because the color of the person, not the race, is described as Indian. And so Indian becomes this catch-all for race, color, phenotype. And so you also see where the individual was born in Montana. Now, being born in Montana or out west also seems to correlate with maintaining the Indian identity in terms of racial identity. And if you look down below, you can see Blanche Shebert Sioux. So you see the mother of the groom. His mother maintained her surname, her family name, her tribal name of Sioux. And so he did not, as you can see here. But you do see the mother maintaining this name, and you also see when there is the maintenance of that, then the mother is described as her color being Indian. This is a divorce decree for Daniel Sioux, and as you can see, Daniel Sioux is identified racially as American Indian. Again, this is coming out of Montana, and there does seem to be a difference being made when individuals are out west versus those who remained in the east and the southeast in particular. Here we have someone with the Sioux surname, and this individual was born in North Carolina. And you see also, again, even though the Sioux identity, you see the individual has been classified racially as Black. Again, this tends to coincide with this being left behind dynamic. So individuals who have these surnames appear to be more likely reclassified racially if they were left behind and became U.S. citizens versus being removed. Now we're going to see how the Choctaw who were left behind also were reclassified as white. And so again, there was a dynamic whereby when individuals were left behind after the removal, they tended to be reclassified out of being Indian, even if they had that Indian surname, and reclassified into being white, Negro, Black, colored. If you look over to the right hand side, you can see this is the 1880 U.S. federal census. This is for Arkansas. You can see that this entire family, even though they possess the surname Choctaw, they have been classified racially as white. Here's yet another historical example where you can see an entire family was classified as white with the 1880 U.S. Census, and this is also in Arkansas. The entire family is classified as white even though they maintain the surname and tribal name of Choctaw. Some people see the Choctaw and the Choctaw as one group. Some people see them as distinct groups. What's interesting here is that the Choctaw appear to be rooted in terms of that surname usage, tend to be rooted here in the United States, whereas the Choctaw with the C-H-A-H-T-A or C-H-A-T-A, that rooting appears to be more prevalent outside of the United States. Here you can see 12,000 people bear this surname with the C-H-A-T-A, and the majority of the people are in Cambodia. You do see a heavy number in Peru, but then you get to Malawi, Thailand, Zambia, India, Ecuador, Tanzania, prior to getting into the United States with this particular spelling. Here you see another oddity, this time with the spelling of C-H-A-H-T-A as the surname. You see a wide dispersion. You also do not see an indication for heavy prevalence in the United States. You see approximately 56 people bearing this tribal surname, and you see them primarily in Algeria, followed by France, Pakistan, Morocco. Here you have an interesting dynamic where an individual is coming in from Czechoslovakia. Originally, the name was Istvan Choctaw, and you see the name was changed to Stephen Hatta. Here you see the Choctaw name again. This time, this individual is coming out of Hungary. And finally, you have an individual who is coming out of Poland. This is birth date 1956. This individual has the surname Choctaw. This individual is also identified as racially white. Here you see additional dispersion related to this surname. You see the individual is identified as Rachel Choctaw, coming out of the Philippines. And this individual is petitioning for naturalization and was born in 1960. Now we're going to look at individuals who maintain the Choctaw tribal name as the surname, but were classified as Negro. Then we are going to also look at ones who were reclassified as Black, even though they maintained the tribal surname of Choctaw. This is a military record for an individual born in 1882. The individual is identified as Joe Choctaw. And what you can see is the person is identified as Negro. What's helpful about these registration records is that you have descriptors of the individuals. And so you can see that the individual is identified by a particular height. This is on the right-hand side. You can see the color of the hair and color of eyes labeled as Black. But what you see here is the individual is identified as Choctaw, but the individual has been classified racially as Negro. Here you see another military draft registration card. This is for World War I. You see this individual also surnamed Choctaw, and this individual was born in 1891. This person is identified again as Negro, coming out of Mississippi. Here you have another individual. This is World War I draft registration card. This individual was born in 1898. Another individual by the surname of Choctaw, again in Mississippi. This individual has been classified from Indian to Negro. Now let's look at the 1930 U.S. federal census. This is for Laura Choctaw, and this individual is in Mississippi, and you see the entire family listed. And you see, although the surname is the family tribal name of Choctaw, you see these individuals have been classified as Negro. Here you see Dora Choctaw and also children. And what you see over to the right is that these individuals, again, although identified by the tribal name of Choctaw as the surname, these individuals have been classified racially as Negro. Again, this coincides with remaining behind and not being removed and becoming citizens of the United States. Here we have another military registration for Johnny Choctaw, and this individual was born in 1927. This is also a record coming out of Mississippi. This individual is described, even though the person has the identity of Choctaw based upon the surname, the tribal name, the person has been classified as Negro, described as having brown eyes, black hair, and black skin. Now let's look at Choctaw, where individuals are reclassified as Black. The first record we have is a record related to Greenwood, Mississippi, and you see the individual is Melinda Choctaw Gostin, and she is identified in this particular record as Black. Her birth date is 1908. Here we have a census record for a family for John Choctaw, and you see John, Mary, Ben. You see a number of children. You see, even though they have the surname, the family name, the tribal name of Choctaw, they have been classified in this 1910 U.S. Census as Black. As we wrap this up, you can clearly see that the histories of individuals or groups have been changed over time simply by the destruction of records and destructions of identities. So you see individuals who are clearly labeled according to their tribal names, but then their nationhood has been stripped from them, their ethnicity has been stripped from them, their actual racial categorization based upon family genetics, that has been stripped, and then they have been reclassified as either white or as black instead of maintaining their ethnicities. This problem takes place when individuals are trying to rewrite history. You also see this dynamic going on right now where you see people trying to destroy statues and artwork and just really rewriting history. So it will be very difficult for people to trace what actually happened in history. So this happens whether you're talking about destruction of artifacts or moving artifacts, or whether you were talking about destroying people, the names of people, or even moving those people. And so you can see how history gets changed, and it's not a beneficial change in terms of history, because what you're doing basically is lying and creating a lot of chaos and confusion. This also helps you to see how important it is for you to keep an open mind when you are tracing your ancestry. Your ancestors could be reclassified at any moment in time. You might find that one moment they are classified as black, another moment African American, Negro, white, mulatto, Indian. It could just be anything. And so you really have to keep your mind open when you also keep in mind that there are individuals who are pretty set on recreating reality in the present, in the past, and in the future. Remember, knowledge is power.